Hiya, my name's Savannah Marshall and you're watching Sport and Icons.
Okay, so a couple of nights ago, of course, I've seen the audio for Deontay Wilder, which was conducted by Yahoo Sports. The frontman for that was Kevin Leoli or something like that. Either way, his first name is definitely Kevin. Now, within this very, very short audio clip, and if you haven't seen it yet, it'll be in the description box as always, he did blame the costume. Okay, now the reason I didn't do a video on it, and I know many of you have been copying me into this audio on social media, which of course I do appreciate, of course. But the reason I didn't do a video on it is because for me, the costume's a pretty redundant subject. First and foremost, it's a ridiculous excuse. And number two, only, 6-7 weeks ago, he said, actually, I don't blame the costume anymore. So for me, it's a pretty redundant costume excuse. But when it comes to, obviously, a lot of you want me to talk about it. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll incorporate it with all the other excuses, where every single excuse that Wilder has come out with has been debunked. All his fans and their toxic excuses, and they're reaching into the bucket of excuses and all this kind of stuff. Listen, we know why his fans are doing it, because they know that there's enough people where the educational system has failed them, so they're going to believe anything that they say. They're in damage control, okay? They're hurting because of what happened, okay? It is what it is. But that's why Wilder's fans have been doing what they do, because they've always done it. Even before Wilder lost, they always had an excuse as to why he hasn't fought this guy or this, that and the other, okay? Everything's always everybody else's fault, but never Wilder's fault, okay? But when it comes to the costume, well, Wilder did say he blamed the costume for it. So any kind of Wilder fans out there, if you've been saying, well, Wilder never said that, there's no proof, it's just media hype or twisting or anything like that, is coming out with stories, well, he did actually say it. So what are you saying now? Are you going to admit that you was wrong, that he did blame the costume? Are you? Of course you're not. Or if you did, you'd probably go, yeah, but what about this, that, and the other? So we're going to go through all the excuses. So the costume, he definitely did blame the costume. But it's not the costume that I want to focus on. It's what else did he say? He said that when he got to the ring, he already felt like his legs were gone. They were weak, always to that effect. So that will tell you, just in that one little line that he says there, the moment the bell went in the fight with Tyson Fury, anything that happened after then is irrelevant, because his legs had already gone, according to Wilder, which is why he blamed the costume. So any kind of spike in the water, I know people saying, well, Mark Breland, he did hold the water in the fight, even though Mark Breland said he didn't. Again, I've done a video on that one as well. Yes, he did hold the water. But according to Wilder, his legs were already gone. So he was feeling fine before he was put on the costume. That hellacious long walk that he done with that guy on the microphone that nobody understood a word of what it was that he was saying did take a hell of a long time to get to the ring. Now, had Wilder, when he took off the helmet after the lights were flashing and everything, which looked pretty cool, by the way, he was rubbing his eyes for a long time. In fact, when he went in the middle of the ring to have the final instructions from the referee, he was still rubbing his eyes. For some reason, he hasn't used that excuse. Had he used that excuse, that's quite a valid one. If you can't see and you can't focus, it's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Is what it is, okay? But the costume was a stupid excuse. It really was. Again, he said it was, 40 odd pounds. But yet the manufacturers of this costume said it was £26. So how does that work out? Anyway, it is what it is. So we'll talk about the gloves. So the gloves of Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury put egg weights in his gloves and tampered with them in some kind of way. Okay, again, a lot of the Wilder fans seem to have the first fight confused with the second fight for some reason. Wilder was beaten that badly, they got pushed back in time by 18 months to look for excuses in the first fight. Strange how you missed anything in the first fight for what? The next 18 months, right? Is what it is. But again, why are the gloves debunked? Well, because first and foremost, the gloves weren't floppy in the rematch. That was the first one. I said there's so many fans out there who get confused with the first fight and second fight. But JD's, Deontay Wilder's trainer manager, was in the changing room watching Tyson Fury's hands get wrapped, gloves put on, that Team Wilder accepted. They touched themselves before the Nevada State Athletic Commission got these gloves and locked them away before presenting them to Tyson Fury on fight night. But JD's watched the gloves being put on. JD's watched the gloves being taped up and then signed off. Why are they taped and signed off? Because if you mess with the tape to try and tamper with the gloves, well, you're going to disturb the autograph, the signature, whatever it is that they write on the gloves. Okay? And again, the laces are always tucked in where the wrist is. So again, they're taped up. You can't mess with the laces at all. So how on earth is he going to fit something down the wrist of his gloves? You try and put at least a couple of fingers down there, let alone an egg weight or anything, it'd be pretty impossible. All that, JD's is totally blind and missed an entire egg weight going into the hand or hands of Tyson Fury. I mean, how bad would that be? JD's, his own trainer and manager, would miss something like that. Of course it didn't happen. But if you're unhappy about that or unsure about that, maybe JD's just happened to miss it. Well, what about the Nevada Athletic Commission, who were there also overseeing all this? What about when he got to the ring? The referee checked his gloves, much like he checked Wilder's gloves, as it happens in each and every fight. So how is that even possible? But again, we go back to the point. Wilder was already tired before the fight even started. So let's not be blaming anything on Tyson Fury's gloves. The dent in Wilder's head. Well, look at the post-fight interview in the ring. That dent has magically disappeared. That's weird, isn't it? Again, this goes back to what it was that I said originally, which looks like because JD's was putting quite a bit of pressure on his head using the end swell. And if anybody who reads up the instructions of the end swell, if you press too hard, you are going to leave a bit of an indentation. Not on the skull, but on the skin. But it will appear from certain angles that there's something wrong with his head. But if there is any kind of dent in Wilder's head, maybe he was born that way. People are born that way. Okay, it just is what it is. He just wasn't noticed in that particular time. But yet he was okay and this dent is totally healed and everything now. But that's weird, isn't it? That's weird. Did he have any kind of surgery on it? If he did, where's the evidence? Okay, now the spiking of the water, again, easy debunk that one. Wilder, just like Fury, passed Wilder before the fight and after the fight. Both fights were tested. So if anything was in his system, surely he would have been flagged. Muscle relaxant, anything. You can't even take a Lemsip for a headache without it being flagged by VADA. And on the forms, if you do have anything in your system, you have to declare it, which is why a lot of fighters can take certain things and get away with certain things because they do declare it. And then it's deemed as a pass because you did declare it, which is one of the reasons why Luis Ortiz failed that VADA test when he was supposed to have fought Wilder the first time, because he didn't put the high blood pressure medication on the form. If he'd have done that, he'd have passed and the fight would have taken place. Okay, so maybe Wilder, because of all the surgeries that he has, maybe he's doped up to the eyeballs with steroids, so therefore he's getting some kind of therapeutic use exemptions. So therefore anything that goes into his system is going to be masked, not flagged up. That's the other possibility. Or he's a totally clean fighter, which means nothing happened. He wasn't spiked at all. Either way, you can't get away from either one of them, can you? All right. The towel coming in by Mark Breland. Okay. Well, again, the towel coming in was pretty obvious. He had blood coming out of his ears for 3 or 4 of those rounds. His legs were gone. His eyes were gone. All that kind of stuff. And the referee was stopping the fight as the towel came in. It wasn't until Wilder complained and then the referee looked over and seen the towel on the floor that he blamed the towel. Because there's no way that he saw the towel coming in because it came in where the referee was blindsided. So it would have made no difference had Mark Breland thrown the towel in. If he had just held on for 2 or 3 more seconds, the referee was stopping the fight. But Mark Breland throwing in the towel was a good thing. He was concerned about Wilder. People say because Durrell was shouting over, throwing the towel, he's had enough, yada, yada, yada. And they're putting two and two together and coming up with 22, and it's a Kronk connection, because obviously Sugar Hill was a trainer for Tyson Fury in that fight. And of course, Mark Breland was a Kronk fighter, but that was under Manny Stewart, not Sugar Hill. Sugar Hill would have been a kid at that point. So that's very, very unlikely, isn't it? And of course, why on earth would he throw a towel in for the away fighter? Why would he want to do that? It just doesn't make any kind of sense, does it? The other excuse that the referee was drunk or intoxicated or whatever it may be, well, Kenny Bayless looks that way anyway. But again, just for clarity, just to debunk it, the WBC, they announced a while ago, and I did a video on it, that they have incorporated that the referees and the judges are tested. Okay? So no alcohol, no drugs. That was one of the stipulations. No alcohol. Judges and referees are not allowed to drink alcohol. No form of narcotics, no nothing in their system. So again, Kenny Bayless, because this was a WBC sanctioned bout, he would have come up clean. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been allowed to referee. All right, is what it is. The camera in the changing room, we'll finish off with that one. Well, the camera in the changing room, again, it's not protocol. The fighters don't have to accept the camera being in the changing room, you know. That camera is there for your entertainment and mine. It's a little bonus feature. So on the lead up to the fight, commentators do like to flash to the change rooms. Oh, there's Tyson Fury. He's having like a little bit of a dance, or he's doing his prayers, or whatever it may be. It's a bonus feature. Referee doesn't, the fighters don't have to accept the camera. And it's not uncommon as well that fighters cover up the cam after a certain amount of time, because the commentators have already had their footage. They've already gone back and forth to the changing room, say, oh, this is Tyson Fury, this is whoever else. Right, now it's time for me to go to the ring. So they get rid of the camera. Maybe they want to go to the toilet. Maybe they need to get in changed for whatever reason, or somebody else in there needs to get changed. Okay, it happens in many, many fights. The camera is not compulsory. Didn't have to have the camera in there at all. Do you realise how many fights don't have cameras in the changing rooms? So many of them. They really do. But again, if you're unsure about it, go check the Alexander Usyk versus Derek Chisora fight. Alexander Usyk covered up the camera. So it happens in many, many fights. So in all, Wilder and his fan base are left pissing in the wind, aren't they? That's exactly what they are. His own fans have cut off their own dignity and sold their soul and whatever else. Quite how they look at their wives and kids and that in the face is beyond me, knowing exactly how feminine they actually are. It's unbelievable, really, isn't it? But anyway, it is what it is. So sorry, Wilder, you're just a pathetic loser who hasn't even provided not one bit of evidence. What can you do, eh? What more excuses are you going to come out with? We'll wait for them. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.